Hey, here we go again. So, hey, end of the day, and my buddy here, you're the closer for a reason. So I'm excited for you all to hear Speed continue the conversation that Jason did such a wonderful job with. And Speed and I do this a lot. And as he said earlier, we haven't done specific sessions the last few years, but you all asked for it. And so we want to deliver that. So my friend, take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hey, what's cool about this is today we're going to be able to kind of, the folks we've heard from have all been amazing. And there's been a lot of different themes going on there. But what we can do today is we're going to kind of put a ribbon on all of this and kind of close it out for the day. Got a big day coming tomorrow as well. We'll tell you more about that after the session's over. So, all right, I'm just going to jump in. And you know what? I guess I'll jump in with the obvious, and that is Happy New Year. I mean, it's not too late, right? It's New Year. It's new goals. It's a new attitude out there. And what's interesting about New Year's every year, we have a ritual. You know, we wake up on the first day back from the holidays. We flip the calendar page to that new year. We're excited about the fact there's no whiteout. It's kind of a pristine calendar, right? And then we dust off the same old tired resolutions, the same stuff that we've shown out for years. I'm not. Keep going. There we go. And it's the same old New Year's resolutions. You know, lose a couple of pounds. Get back to the gym, which, to be honest, I never do that one anyway. Stop chasing advertising dollars. Stop going after that same low-hanging fruit that we go in and try to get year in and year out. To actually get out of the box. To talk to new folks, to help new businesses create dollars out there. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but last Friday, everybody up on this? January the 17th was officially New Year's resolution quit day. It's a thing, right? It's a second Friday of the new year that happened to be on the 17th this year, where most of us out there, we abandon our resolutions. We walk away from them. And we return to our old habits, nice and comfortable, right? I celebrated a quit day this year by not going to the gym, which I didn't do that the previous day either. And here's the situation. If our 2024 wasn't what we were expecting, if our spot revenue was down, if we're seeing fewer RFPs or requests for proposals from our customer base, those advertising agencies out there, if your shares of the pie, that marketing pie, that advertising revenue pie, if they continue to decline year in and year out, what makes us think that 2025 is going to be any different? And I got to tell you, I think this one's on us. Each and every one of us. Me, definitely included. Our collective need is we've got to shift our perspective. You've heard this over and over again today. We got to create a new paradigm. We've been talking about new paradigm so much that it's almost an old paradigm. Folks, we're going to stop chasing dollars, and we're going to start creating new dollars. And we can't afford to wait patiently for that RFP to come across on an email or rely solely on that next big event out there, whatever that event is. Here's the cool thing. The rules of traditional broadcast spending have been disrupted forever. That kind of transactional approach to business, it doesn't cut it anymore. In fact, it hasn't cut it for years. So you can't hope that things will improve. You know, we always talk about hope's not a strategy. For those of you who decide to try it out as a strategy anyway, how'd that work for you? So after listening to Corey, after listening to Jason's message, where he says, look, I really want you to encourage you to try the resolutions again. Get rid of these. But let's actually become really more involved. Let's aim higher. Let's talk about that fiduciary relationship. So the cool thing is Corey and Jason, they talked about the need to do this. Today I want to talk to you about the why and the how we're going to go about it. The solution, which is a good news, right? I didn't just walk off and say thank you and good night. I mean, there is a solution, and that is instead of waiting passively for our fair share of the revenue pie, Or back when times were better, we used to actually say we demand our unfair share. I mean, how quaint is that in simpler times? Today we need to create our own demand. Today we have to, as Fred Jacobs put it from Jacobs Media, he so aptly puts it this way. He says, look, if you don't like your share of the pie, then for God's sakes, get out there and bake more pies. I love the imagery of this. We've got to bake more pies. We've got to separate ourselves from the competition. And the good news is this, because where there is disruption, there is opportunity. 2025, if we choose to make it so, is a year that we actually can redefine our partnerships in media sales and working with small and medium-sized businesses on Main Street across the country. It's time to become proactive, to become indispensable to our clients, both new and existing. So what it really comes down to is we got to create that demand by delivering exceptional value. And when I say value, I'm not talking about free stuff. I'm not talking about cheap spots or promotions or bonuses. Our customers need so much from us than this. You've already heard, Corey told us, they need our help. And we have the marketing expertise in your neighborhood to make that happen. So today what it comes down to is if you don't like the outcome that we're seeing right now, you've got to change the approach. It's just that simple. So today what we're going to do is we're going to unlock the most valuable asset that you have out there. And that is to start to create a fiduciary relationship. When I started hearing about the fiduciary relationship, well, I didn't know exactly what they meant. And by doing this, I developed this relationship based on trust and customers' interests above our own. Basically, what we've got to do is you've got to look at, if you're looking at Jason, he says, look, I've got tax advisors and accountants and insurance agents, and they're all charged with helping me grow my customer. They're all charged with helping me grow my business. They're bound by law to put my business before theirs. So what it comes down to is this: they have a financial obligation. And what it comes down to is the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, the duty of good faith. Duty of care is you are a professional. You got to act with confidence and competence and diligence and prudence. You have duty of loyalty. You have to avoid conflict of interest, to put the needs of the customer first. And of course, the duty of good faith. Act honestly, transparently, and in all dealings with your customer. A fiduciary is a legal obligation, but that doesn't mean I'm asking you to draw up a legal agreement with everybody and all of your customers. This is more of a personal code of ethics. I will treat the investment of my customers' marketing dollars as if they were my own. I'll provide wise counsel. And I'll readily admit, I don't have all the answers, but I will get them for you. And I'll put them in front of you. I will look after your best interests above my own. In short, folks, you can trust me. I've got this. We can work together. This is how we reposition ourselves in the minds of the customers. This is how we build our brand. End of the day, folks, we build brands every day. It is our wheelhouse. And we do an amazing job of it. But how often do we stop to really rebuild our own brand? To really look in the mirror and say, all right, what do I do for a living? Through this personal branding, I think there are 5 areas of growth that's going to help you put that brand together, to separate you from the competition, to step out in front of the line and say, you know what? You go over there for that share of the shrinking pie. I think I'll start baking my own. And what it comes out to is this. The first one is to find your lane. And own that lane. We're going to talk about evaluation and education and engagement of your customer. We're going to talk about defining your relationship. We're going to talk about exceptional customer experiences. I got to tell you, since COVID, that's a dying art. There's such a need there. And the final piece of this puzzle, we're going to talk about thought leadership. So let's start this thing out. And the first step is to actually talk about finding that lane. Let's start by getting crystal clear on understanding your customer base. And by that, I'm not talking about what is their demo, what's their cost per point goal. Folks, we got to go deep. For years, I've had people say to me over and over again, hey, let's talk about your ideal customer profile. I mean, what does that really mean? What I want you to do right now or tomorrow or with your teams, I want you to actually start to identify who are those ideal customers. You know what I'm talking about, right? These are the people that you really do resonate with. You're almost at one with them. You have shared values. You have a strong desire to learn and grow and innovate, and so do they. You have a genuine interest in their products and their services because you know you can help them succeed. And a lot of that's because they want to succeed. They're proactive. They're receptive. They're open to new ideas, your ideas. They're driven to succeed. And finally, you're looking for a client that not only listens to your solution. A lot of folks listen to the solution, and then they tell you thanks, but no thanks. These are the folks out there, this ideal customer. They're the ones that say, you know what, let's do this. They've got the financial wherewithal to do something about it. These are the kinds of pies. If we're going to go out and bake new pies, shouldn't this be the flavor? Shouldn't this be what we're looking for? So I want you to identify those ideal customers. Let me give you a personal example. Back in my earlier days of my career, I identified a prime customer segment, and that happened to be the apartment developers. See, I was a baby boomer, right? I was just out of school. There were so dang many of us all graduating at the same time. There was an apartment shortage across the country. Kansas City, my hometown, was no different. So I wanted to find out everything I could about that segment because I wanted to move out and find my own place. So one of the first things I did is I had a connection with a buddy of mine who was in commercial real estate. And he starts to talk to me about all these developers are coming in from across the country to build these huge developments for 18 to 24-year-old adults that are young professionals just starting out. And I'm thinking, I could relate with them. As a matter of fact, I am an 18 to 24-year-old adult. I'm a young professional. I have that need. Oh, top it all off, I work for the #1 station in my market, 18 to 24-year-old adults. So it didn't take me long. I identified a company out of Phoenix, Arizona. And they were going to build 6, count them 6, huge, monstrous developments in Kansas City over about a 3-year period. So I, one way or the other, was able to actually establish relationships. And it ended up being a partnership. I understood their demo. I understood the psychographics. I understood everything about them. I was considered to be a part of their team. I would study everything I could. I wanted to speak their language. And it wasn't long before I actually was credible. And they considered me a partner. And then after that, I started to expand to other related services, like new furniture and used furniture and rental furniture and truck rentals and local movers. Years later, I actually took it to the next step. Because now, all of a sudden, I wanted to look at maybe realtors and developers because we were transitioning from being renters to buyers. It was a great time. And to be honest, it carried me through that first 3 years in the industry. So that was my lane. That was my time, my story, and it worked beautifully. I was a fiduciary with them, and I didn't even realize what it meant. So my next question for you is, you need to find your lane. You need to find your niche, and you need to own it. See, I'm not asking you to avoid everything else. I'm asking you to do this. I want you to find 10 or 20 businesses that fit that ideal customer profile. I want you to call it major account development, putting it in your timer, your day timer, and going back and revisiting that on a daily and weekly basis. And I want you to actually put all of your time, not so much in just staying in one lane. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I want you to create your own lane, to own that lane, to invite other people. If they say fit, they've got to almost ask your permission to enter that lane. So once you've identified this ideal customer, it's time for you to start to get to work. So we talked about this today. What it comes down to is I want to begin the relationship with a client discussion that goes beyond their traditional CNA. As a matter of fact, we've talked a lot about that. We've heard a lot about that today. If you want great answers, you've got to ask meaningful questions. And so many people out there, they took a great art form and they turned it into a joke. They walk through the front door. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your hours. So what do you do here? Folks, that's insulting. Walk their store. Do your homework. What you want to do at this particular point is you want to go through and you want to evaluate and educate and entertain. What it comes down to it all is you've got to teach these folks to reach these folks. So one of the first things I do when I walk through the door, this evaluate and education and engagement process. Let's do a brief evaluation, kind of a deeper version of what we're looking at in terms of building the brand, in terms of the needs analysis. I want to begin by discussing what's important to them. I call this 5+1. And 5+1 is really this. These are 5 things that you need to know, that your customer needs to know about building the brand before you can even help them. 5 things that they need to know about their business. The first thing is pretty simple, and that is, as a business owner and operator, what is your purpose, your mission, your values, your vision? And this almost sounds like, why would I start there? I've been blessed in my industry. I've had the chance of working with so many different businesses over the years. And there's so many of them that they're great. I could ask them, tell me about your company. Give me your elevator pitch. And it's fantastic. It's dead on. But there are other people out there that if you ask them, give me your elevator pitch, they can't even get it out of the basement. They don't know what they do. It's almost like they spend so much time going into business, they never bother to figure out what business they're going into. So your first step is, what is that purpose? What is the mission? What are the values? What's the vision? The second one is this simply. What are they known for? Are they known at all? If it's a brand new business, they have a blank canvas. They don't even know what they're going to be known for yet. This is great. This gives us a starting point. We can help them. But there are other folks out there, they say, you know what? My brand doesn't say it anymore. What I'm known for is really not what I do. All right. We've got some rebranding to do. It's time for us to roll up our sleeves. It's time for us to get to work. The next one is, who is my target customer? Not who would you like it to be, or who do you kind of sort of think it is? To the best of your ability, who is that target customer out there? And why are they your target customer? Why are that ideal customer? And number 4 is why do customers choose you? Let's face it, today we've got the opportunity, more options, more opportunities to spend our money we've ever had before. We can go to box stores. Heck, we can sit on the couch and open up some online and get Amazon to put in our front yard by tomorrow morning. But their customers didn't do that. They chose them. Is that cool or what? So why is that? So who else fulfills a need? We finally go to that next one, and if you'll go to the next slide, and that is, and I stole this one from Darren Steenbergen, and I gave you credit. What is that one thing that everyone should know about your company, but they don't? Let me say that again. What is that one thing everyone should know about your company, but they don't? I love that question. As a matter of fact, if they answer that earnestly and honestly, you could build a brand. You've got everything you need to separate them from the competition. So let's go to the next slide. The next thing is, all right, so first we want to talk about evaluation. Now what we want to do is we want to talk about education. See, how often is it that you walk into the place of business and you just start pitching? You know what I'm talking about, right? You start talking about your social media packages. You start talking about the sports plan that's coming up for spring ball. It's all great. It's all necessary, but you're just pitching. What if we took the time to educate? And really what I would like to do is talk to them about the difference between sales and marketing and advertising. And it seems like it would almost go without saying, right? But it doesn't. The first one up is sales. Sales is pretty simple stuff, and I start there because, folks, we're all on sales. Everybody out there, everybody you meet today, everybody on this call today is in sales. It may not be on your business card, but it's implied. And sales, it's a conversation. that originates from one and it's delivered to one. Makes sense, right? That one-to-one relationship. God, I love this. It's one of my favorite things, if you'll go back there. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things out there, that to walk into a place of business and you can look them eye to eye and you know if you're tracking, you know if they've got questions, you can actually keep the conversation moving. I love this part of it. But the situation is, when you're talking about this one-to-one relationship, somebody walks through the door for the very first time, you stick out your hand and you say, what brings you in? And you ask, how can I help you? All of a sudden, you're starting that needs analysis at that one-to-one level. But the problem is, it's a very slow process, right? This word of mouth, it takes time. It's organically grown. People will not come in if they don't know you're there. I don't care how great your store looks. I don't care about your logos or your products, your service. If people don't know you exist, you don't exist. So the difference between sales and marketing, let's add marketing in. What's the difference between sales and marketing? Frankly, not much. The difference is scope and scale. Marketing is a conversation that originates from one, that's delivered to the masses. Does that make sense? For you folks on radio and TV on this call right now, this is what you do. This is the part that should excite you. Your station's to reach tens of thousands of folks every week. Your word of mouth on steroids. You're starting the conversation. Now add to that hundreds of thousands of page views through your digital assets. Now we're on to something. Guys, again, you're the eyes, you're the ears, you're the voice of the communities that you serve. Other than just a few markets out there like a Dallas, a Chicago, an LA, a New York, we all live in a news desert, except for you. You're out there separating yourself from the competition. Again, we're word of mouth and we're on steroids. The cool thing about this is if we take our digital assets, we can reach our coverage areas, of course. But now we can go maybe statewide with the message, or nationwide, or worldwide. We can take this message as big and as far as we want to go, which takes us from marketing to advertising. And most people, they don't really think about the advertising side. They think, well, isn't that just marketing? It's a nuance. Yes, I'll give you that. But advertising, basically, we have to bring it back in again. Marketing, we took it from one to one, and then we went to many, and now I've got to take it to many, and I have to get back to one to one. Your advertising messaging is exactly how we do that. You have to take that message and resonate one at a time. This is accomplished with great creative. We talk about, look, it's not the stuff we sell. It's about the stories that we tell. And great advertising makes that happen. As a matter of fact, we have Jamie Applin coming in tomorrow. He's going to be able to talk about this, and he's going to talk about AI and how this all works together. It's telling stories. So now that we've talked about sales and marketing and advertising working in unison, let's keep the education going. And actually, let's kind of pick up the conversation. Jason started to talk about this, the funnel, right? We talk about sales funnels and marketing funnels and customer purchase funnels. There are a lot of funnel analogies out there, but I like to call it AIDA. AIDA is awareness, interest, desire, and action. Folks, when you're talking to that customer for the very first time, you're trying to establish that new ideal customer out there, and you really want to get deep with them in a conversation and say, look, this is what you do. This is what you bring to the party, that awareness, interest, desire, and action. Awareness is, we got to put you on the radar screen. When Jason and Victoria opened up their donut shop, what he didn't have time to tell you is that building that they're in, the first one, sat empty for about 2 years. There were weeds growing up on the sidewalk. It just was gone. So the first thing he had to say is, hey, a donut shop's coming back to town. Now, you don't know us yet, but you will. No, check that. You do know us. You know Victoria. She worked at the grocery store. She worked in the bakery. I know you've done business with her over the years. And you know me, I've been on the air in the afternoons. And we're doing this together. And we'd love to have you come by. I just started awareness, right? I started the conversation. The next one is interest. I got to get them interested in the product and the service. Now, I don't have to tell you, getting somebody interested in a donut, it ain't that hard. I was interested before I even started. You had me at donut. So I've got awareness done. I've got interest done. The next thing I've got to create is desire. There's a lot of donut shops in town. Hutchinson, Kansas, where they're from, they got a bunch of them. As a matter of fact, they got one that's massive. He's Daylight Donuts. Duncan grew up right during the time of COVID. And it's a big, beautiful building. It's freestanding. They got good coffee, but he had to create desire. Why me? So he starts talking about the difference in the dough. He was being polite, he was being kind, but he was being honest. He was saying, look, there's nothing wrong with the other guy, except for you know that their dough is shipped from like some Midwestern factory somewhere, and it comes in once a week. It comes in on a freezer truck. It's like a brick. As a matter of fact, he was telling me this last week. When the weather was so stinking bad, he said Duncan couldn't get their dough because it got locked somewhere on I-35 westbound. So what he says is, I don't have to worry about that because my dough doesn't travel. As a matter of fact, what it comes down to is, Victoria, she wakes up every morning. She wakes me up and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I don't care how cold it is or how dark it is. We go over there, we turn on the lights, we turn on the heat, and we make that dough from scratch. Every day. It's what we do. And you know why? Because those donuts, when they're done, they're hot, they're fresh, they melt in your mouth. You know what I'm talking about? Am I starting to create some desire? I'm getting hungry myself. So I got awareness, I got interest, I got desire all working together. The final piece of this is I got to get them to take action. And here's the scoop when it comes to their donut shop. They close typically at 10 a.m. Not because they're tired, even though they probably are. They're closed because they're out of donuts, and they're not shipping them in from Dallas. They start fresh every day, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want to get a donut, you want it to be hot and fresh and delicious, and who wouldn't, right, go up to desire and interest? You got to get there before 10. In fact, I would probably get there about 8 or 9. Does that make some sense? So what we're looking at is feeding the funnel. That's your job, is to keep feeding this. What is our job? Why are we there? Our mission is this. We want to help you keep the funnel full. We're going to do this by reaching the right folks. And we want to do this with frequency, to cut through the clutter. We live in a very crowded world today. We want to do this with consistency of message. We're not trying to be all things to all people. Because when you do that, you end up being nothing to anyone. What we're trying to do is really own that lane. And the final piece is the message. What are we saying? How do we say it? That's why we're here. This is how we work together. So again, when you're talking to these people, when you're trying to establish this fiduciary relationship, talk about the cause and effect. You've got the funnel, awareness, interest, desire, and action. We got to fill the funnel up and keep the line moving, and we do that together. So let's move on to the next step, and that's defining the relationship in the fiduciary relationship. And by doing that, again, our goal is mission is to evaluate, to educate, and to engage our customers. So your goal, right? When you walk in there to do that needs analysis, for God's sakes, don't tell me about your peak season. You should know that. Don't tell me about your business hours. What you want to do is you want to walk in there and you want 2 things to occur. The first one, the next slide, is I want you to leave that decision maker with a better understanding of the branding and marketing process. Don't talk about your packages and your pricing. That could come later. Talk to them about, here's how I will help you sell more customers. And the next thing is, after they've walked out that door, I want them saying, man, when are you coming back? I'm loving this. You're teaching them. They're leaving with a nugget of information they didn't have before, which takes us to the second one, and that is in the evaluate and educate. Of equal importance, you need to walk out of there with a better understanding of how their business works. What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What are their strengths, their growth opportunities? I think Corey said this morning. Folks, we have to be a student of business, not just our business. We need to be a student of all business. You got to listen to the decision maker. You got to listen to that customer. By the way, I made that plural for a reason. You got to listen to the decision makers because you just might learn something. Or of equal importance, they might learn something about you. And folks, this is where we fall short. We tend to get comfortable dealing with media buyers at the agency level or the new car manager. They're great people, don't get me wrong. But if our depth of contact begins and ends with that person, we're missing the boat. We live in a world of the complex sale. What do I mean by a complex sale? You have got multiple decision makers with multiple influencers, with multiple agendas, and of course, multiple egos are involved as well. Everybody that you're talking to in a complex sale has somebody they want to look good to. You need to know who that is. And if you can't answer that question up front, you've got work to do. The process, it's slow, it's tedious, it's detailed, but if you're successful, it's unbelievably lucrative. To truly build strong partnerships, you got to go deep. So let's talk about that. We've identified 6 decision makers that we work with in a complex sale. The first one up is the beneficiary. The beneficiary, we all know this person. They are the person experiencing the problem. They're the problem that if you have a solution for them, man, they're going to listen to you. You know, I missed goal 2 months in a row. I'm trying to sell cars. I got 12 of these cars on my lot. I swear they're bolted to the ground. I need help. And if you have credibility, you have a great idea, they're going to listen to you in that respect. What is their motivation? To achieve those goals, to alleviate the pain points, to get on with their lives. An example of this, of course, would be that sales manager at a struggling car dealership. So he says, yes, I love your idea, but I can't make this decision alone. I've got to take this one up a notch, and I'm going to take it to my boss, the judge. Or at least that's what I call them. The judge is a top-level leader with final approval power. They could be the CEO, the vice president of sales, a regional vice president, the owner of the company. You get the idea. The judge is important. The judge has organizational success is what he's trying to achieve, making sound decisions. He or she, they want to be seen as wise and effective. And if they trust the beneficiary, if they have not lost all credibility, and he or she is coming to them with a great idea that you created, they're probably going to listen. So I've made it through 2 hurdles, right? Let's go to the third one. Yikes, the checkbook. Just the name alone kind of scares you to death, right? There is no real emotion with this one. You know, the judge and the beneficiary can say, hey, you know, Speed's a good guy. He always has great ideas. Checkbook doesn't care. Checkbook wants to know, all right, what is the ROI? I need data-driven evidence of value. So we need to speak their language. We need to understand what is truly important to them. And what's important to them is the bottom line, that return on investment. All right, so far, everybody I've talked about is at the client direct, right? You walk into the business, there they are. All right, a lot of you have about 85% of your business is coming from agencies. Let's talk over there a little bit. So the next one up is number 4, and that is the allocator. The allocator, who are they? The allocator actually determines the budget allocation. They meet with the client, they meet with the account executive at the advertising agency, and they say, hey, look, they need to move some more Ford trucks, and he or she need to build the plan. So they come up with psychographics and demographics and channel selections and budgets and demos. They put it all together. Who do they want to look good to? They want to look good to their boss at the agency. They also want to look good to the ultimate boss, their customer. So what they want to do is they want to get it right. And they want to get it done, and they want it to run correctly. Media supervisor is an ad agency equivalent of the allocator. The problem is, I dare say that most of you on this call right now, you've never met this person. They walk in the shadows. They don't really want to talk to you that much. What they do is they take it on to number 5, and that is the fulfiller. Number 5, that fulfiller, what they want to do is they want to execute the plan. The allocator built the plan. The allocator is like the architect of a house. Well, somebody's got to order the nails and the stud walls. And that's what the fulfiller does. They execute the plan. They have very limited, if any, decision-making authority at all. What they want to do is they want to get it done. Smooth, they want to implement, they want to meet deadlines, they want effective and minimum hassle. The fulfiller is typically overworked and underpaid. I don't know any other way to look at that. They have to buy Kansas City this morning, Wichita this afternoon, Des Moines first thing and tomorrow morning. And if you're walking into them and they're saying, I don't agree with your approach, all you're doing is slowing them down. You're not fulfilling their needs, you're just getting in the way. So we have to understand this about all these different customers out there, the beneficiary, the judge, the checkbook, the allocator, the fulfiller, which takes us to my final one and my favorite one. And we've talked about this today as well. This is the influencer. The person that influences. They're your internal advocate. They're your champion. They want you to succeed. Who knows why? It could be that they believe in you personally, or they believe in your idea, or they want to stand out from the crowd within the organization. This is the only person on that list of 5 that really cares about you at all. That influencer, you could have a bunch of them, you could have one. And they could be at the agency level, or they could be at the client direct. And what's cool about this individual, though, is once you get them on board, they can move this forward. I'll give you a quick example. Kansas City Royals. A number of years ago, Brian and I were actually working on a proposal. We had a new product. It was a sports marketing product, and it was a great product. We're talking to Fred White. Fred was in charge of broadcast affiliates for the Kansas City Royals. He was their network relations guy. So we're pitching them on why we need to teach people how to sell sports marketing. That we're selling passion. We're selling the industry itself. And Fred looked us right in the eye and he said, I don't disagree. I think that's a great idea. Because it's a heck of a lot better what I'm doing right now. With all my affiliates, all I do is I send them a 3-ring binder at the beginning of the year and tell them about the specials we've got coming up. That's about it. And in overall, this is what Major League Baseball says the average, customer looks like. So I like your idea, but I don't make that call. But I'll tell you what I'll do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to broker a meeting with 5 folks. I'm going to have this on the 4th floor of Kauffman Stadium in the executive suite, the boardroom there, and it's gorgeous. And I'm going to tell you what each of those folks want, the beneficiary, the judge, the checkbook. I'm going to tell you everything they want and need, but it's up to you. You've got to make it happen. And we went in there loaded for bear. Brian and I had it nailed. It was almost like we knew what was going to be asked and what everybody wanted from us because we did know. Because Fred told us, this is what the beneficiary wants. This is what the judge wants. Your checkbook, he's going to want to see this. And we delivered the goods. I mean, literally, I plugged into that big screen on the side wall with full confidence we get the deal done. And we did. Not immediately, but we got it done. So think of your ideal customer. Why don't you do this? Map their decision-making structure. For you managers on this call right now, make this a next call that you have on your sales meetings. And say, look, I want to know who is a beneficiary, the judge, the checkbook, the allocator, the fulfiller. Who are all the influencers that you're working with right now? The ultimate decision makers. And what are their motivations? What are their goals? And I'll give you a hint. If that entire list consists of only the allocator and the fulfiller, you haven't talked to the customer. Because the customer, the decision-making customer, doesn't even live in the agency's house. They're down the street. There's an old saying that the most effective way to make more money is to help your customer make more money. The most effective way for you to make more money is to help your customer make more money. I love that one. It's by my favorite Greek philosopher, Anonymous, right? So let's continue in our pursuit of establishing our fiduciary relationship, our code of ethics, which takes us to number 4, and it's exceptional customer experiences. And I got to tell you, I think customer service is woefully missing in our world today. It's sad. It all but disappeared, really during COVID. So let's begin by elevating that customer, by getting beyond basic service and aiming for unreasonable hospitality. I love this. I don't often do book reviews and recommendations, but I got to do it with this one. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. It's interesting. I'd done a presentation. I'd finished up, and it was a bunch of clients, small business owners in the room, and we're having lunch. And we started talking about the lack of customer service in our world today. And a lady that was sitting across from me at this table, the table round, she unzips her backpack. She pulls this book out, right? And lays it right in front of me. And I said, do you always travel with that book? And she goes, I do. It's that important to me. And I didn't get her name, and I wish I had. I immediately picked up a copy, and I read it cover to cover. I didn't have handy a yellow highlighter. All I had was blue. And now it's turned into the blue book because I think I've highlighted every stinking page in the book because it's just packed with information. Forget just satisfying customers. We're talking unreasonable hospitality. It's such a great reminder that we're all in the service industry, whether we know it or not. We need to be. Will comes from the front of the house. Will Gadara is not a chef. He doesn't get to wear the cool hat, right? He doesn't get to create the product. His mission is to create and control and deliver the customer's experience. From start to finish, from reservation to check, he is in charge of that experience. And most restaurants have good food. What he looks at is taking it to the next level. What he's looking at is, let's talk about unreasonable hospitality. He led EMP, it's a restaurant, 11 Madison Park. It was an okay restaurant. It had 2 stars, maybe 1 star when they first started. It was more of a bistro. He turned it into fine dining because he knew that his head chef was amazing. He took this in New York City, a competitive restaurant market, and they did this in 7 years. They took it from, well, a 1 star, a 2 star, to actually listed as the #1 best restaurant in the world. Are you kidding me? And he said, look, my secret weapon, he goes, I did it with hospitality so stinking extraordinary, so over the top, it was unreasonable. He said, my goal was to blow people away, not with a check. This wasn't just about food, right? It was about creating an unforgettable experience. As he says right here, look, if hospitality is about making people feel seen, the best way to treat them is not like a commodity. Hey, go fill up the coffee cups over on table 5. They're paying a lot of money, and they're people with stories. He said, look, unreasonable hospitality means that one size fits one. I love that. Do we look at our customer base that way? Do we treat them as one size fits one, or are they just a demo? Are they just a budget? Keeping the food analogy going, let's begin with this one. Reasonable customer service is expected. It's not going over the top. So reasonable is meeting basic expectations. You go to a fast food restaurant and you order a #7. My, that looks good. You go to a #7 cheeseburger meal, you see it, you want to order it, and soon, either on a tray or a bag, depending on if you're coming or going, there it is. That 7 cheeseburger meal. Basic service requested, basic service met. But things go wrong, right? The wheels fall off. So really that's expectation. The bigger question is, what are we going to do about it? Let's say this process involves a tech-challenged customer in an uncooperative computer kiosk, which first of all, $2.15, what the heck, right? But I don't know about you, but I tend to struggle with that kiosk. It takes me a while to get the #7 cheeseburger meal because I got to wade through all these screens and I have no patience for that. But I finally get it, even though I look over in the corner and there's a guy behind the counter who's just staring off into space, a wonderful gentleman with an arch. I don't want to name names. And then finally I go to insert my card. And the chip doesn't work, so I swipe it, I slash it, I do whatever it takes, it doesn't work. I'm looking over to this guy, right? And he's in a trance. He's staring blankly off into space. And I said, I hate to bother you. Can you help me? And he looked me square in the eye. And he informs me, I think it's just user error. And to be honest, keep trying again. You've got this. I believe in you. And then he goes back to the trance. Now keep in mind, I want a stinking 7 cheeseburger meal, not a motivational speech. I'm up for a good speech, but not right now. So let's look at another example. The employee goes out of their way, same guy, right? But they go out of their way, they come over to the kiosk, they swipe it for me, they select it for me, it's all good. It's a little thing, but little things add up. This is a slightly elevated customer service. He showed that he was able to walk across the room and do something. But it's still just basic expectations, right? I order a meal, they deliver a meal, and mission accomplished. The reason why I say this is, folks, does this sound familiar to you, to any of you? You don't have to raise your hand. You get emailed an insertion order from an advertising agency. Good size shop, good size budget, and it's already the insertion order. Heck, you didn't even have to negotiate the rate. There it is, right? So you notice that it's from an anonymous individual. It's not even the normal media buyer. It's probably an assistant on there, but that's okay, right? So you go to your traffic manager, and the two of you key the order into the system. Are you with me so far? Your next step is to assume, which, by the way, assume is a lot like hope. It's not a great strategy. But you assume that the order and the copy make it through production, and it runs as scheduled. No bumps. Everything's cool. Right copy runs. Now you can be proud of yourself. You can pat yourself on the back. You can say, look at the order I just received. But all you're missing here is a door greeter, and you might as well be at the self-checkout at Walmart. You're not earning it. There's nothing memorable. So what you've got to be is you've got to be unreasonable. To be unreasonable. All right, let's elevate this whole conversation. You're not just meeting or exceeding, you're blowing their expectations away. You're creating a memorable experience. Will describes this as the difference between seeing something in black and white and seeing it in vivid color. His book, he tells a story about this couple. And the couple is out on a date night. It is a special wedding anniversary. Now, the restaurant knows this because they went online, they filled out reservation. What time do you want to be here? Is it a special event? And they checked, yes, it's a wedding anniversary. So far, we got it, right? Everything's cool, right? So then the waiter comes around to ask, hey, did you save room for dessert and coffee? Because our desserts are fantastic. And all of a sudden, he sees this look of panic in the husband's face because he's realized that his parking meter was just about to run out. And everything was lost, right? They had to get the heck out the door. They had to get out quick because the parking lot, they would just as soon, tow you as ticket you, but they will do both. And that's the end of their night. Except for the waiter was unfazed. He said, look, this is your anniversary. You need to know, dessert's on us. We're going to take care of that. And our desserts are phenomenal. Let's get your dessert order in. Let's get you a cup of coffee going. Sir, let's get you a decaf. I think you need to mellow out a tad. And by the way, what are you driving? And what color is it? Where are you parked? We're going to take care of feeding the meter. We'll get that done. Don't worry about it. What? It sounds unreasonable, doesn't it? That in a busy restaurant in Midtown Manhattan, they would take that time. But he said, look, all I'm talking about is 50 cents in the meter. And a member of my bus staff, they'd probably use the time to go smoke a cigarette, to run to the parking meter, to make an anniversary memorable and talked about for years to come. As a matter of fact, it ended up in a book, and we're talking about it right now. Make it memorable. And you're saying, how do I do that? All right, let's try this. Let's go to the next slide. Instead of simply processing a customer's order, right? It comes through, and rather than just taking that insertion order and running it through traffic, what if you do this? You're saying, wow, that's a John Deere order. I remember something. We had co-op that's coming up on that. About 5 products that are mentioned in this spot actually covered, and there's a couple of them that's 100%, right? This is OPM. This is other people's money. It doesn't get better than this. So what you do is you got to go to the customer. And I'm not talking about the lady that just emailed this to you. You got to be able to go directly to the customer and say, I think I can help you save some money on this. Do you realize we have co-op dollars are available, and some of these dollars are 100%. Now, some of these folks probably never even knew they had co-op. Some of these folks don't even know co-op exists because the manufacturer didn't tell them. You need to be that person. Now, would it be easier for you just to take that order and run it through? Yeah, of course it would be. No forms to fill out, no proof of performance. Just do it. But if you uncover their advertising dollars that they didn't even know they had, that's uncommon service, that's unreasonable hospitality, And that is fiduciary thinking. That's how we establish those relationships. Customers don't often understand advertising and marketing. Be their guide. Be that educator. You know what I would do? Write this down. Here's another New Year's resolution for you to try out. Make it a habit to create a positive, memorable, unreasonable customer experience. I would say every day, but you know what? Let's try 2 a week. Will you do that for me? I mean, think about that impact. See, people will forget about what you do. And they'll forget about what you said. They'll even forget about what was on the menu or what kind of wine they had. But they'll never, ever forget how you made them feel at that particular moment in time. A happy customer will tell, well, typically we say 7. But an unhappy customer will tell virtually everybody. So by focusing on that exceptional customer experience, you build strong relationships, you establish yourself as a trusted advisor. This separates us from, well, the herd. Because the rest of the herd is standing in line trying to get that slice of pie. You remember that little piece of pie? And they're the ones that are waiting, standing at that waiting for the email to come through so they could just run it through. And you're establishing deep relationships. That's what this is all about. So far we've talked about evaluating through a more in-depth CNA. We talked about engagement. We've talked about offering an enhanced customer experience. So let's go back to our fiduciary responsibilities here. We started the customer relationship. We defined the sales and marketing and advertising. We talked about AIDA, awareness and interest and desire and action. And now it's time to take education beyond that number 7 cheeseburger meal and leave it as unreasonable. And that is, I want you to establish yourself as a thought leader. A thought leader? To position yourself in the market as a person through your expertise, your forward thinking, becomes a trusted resource within your building, certainly within your customer's place of business, maybe even others in the industry. I know you're shooting for a lot, but why not? Now, here's the scoop. This is not a one and done proposition, right? You're building a personal brand. It's not as simple as including the title thought leader, call me, on a business card. That's just ink and paper. You've got to earn it. You've got to earn it daily. So let's put this thing in the final stretch here. The first thing is you've got to get creative. You can't just talk at your customer. You have to educate that customer. So content is king. So why do we feed them articles? Now, this is crazy. I know this is out of the box. What if you wrote the article? It's your viewpoint on branding and marketing. You've got an opinion. You can teach people. But all right, so you don't want to write the article, then you read an article. Would that be too much? Read the article and then pass it on to them, or a book or whatever, or podcast. Do it in your voice. Make it a monthly event. You send out a podcast from you on your thoughts. It's something that Darren and I have been doing now for 150 some odd episodes. It's very gratifying, and it doesn't take that much time. Share your insights on social media. Become a keynote speaker. Go to your area chamber of commerce and say, you know what? Which, by the way, if you're not a member of your chamber of commerce, shame on you. You need to be a part of your community. They need you, you need them. What you want to be is that specialist, the SME, the subject matter expert. And by the way, if you're saying speed, I'm too busy. I got to get the kids off to daycare, and I just don't have that kind of time. Then do yourself a favor. If you'll go to the next slide, I actually came up with some titles for you. I think you'll like them. You don't have to use all of them, but it's a great place to start. So the power of local branding. All right, that's a good one to maybe sink your teeth into, or creating your client's persona. Or from awareness to loyalty. And again, write an article, a podcast, an insight, become a keynote speaker, talk at their luncheons. See, there's so many ways we can work together, which, by the way, that didn't take me any time at all. I used AI, right? I put in there, here's what I'd like to see, and this is what they gave me. If you really want to cheat, you could probably do AI for the entire presentation. I don't recommend that part. So let's take it to the final one. This is my favorite one. I've been recommending this one for years. And that is the testimonial. We talked up front about that ideal customer, your coach, your counselor, your influencer. What I'd like you to do is engage them to help you. What I'd like to do is after you finish up with this ideal customer that you've been doing business with for years, they know you, they trust you, and you can say, may I ask you a huge favor? I know this is way out of bounds, but I've got this. This is my phone, in case you didn't know. And what I'd like to do is I would like to video you. See, the cool thing about the smartphone, it allows you to carry a full-service video production studio in your pocket, right? So what you want to do with them is you're going to say, look, I want you to tell your story. Remember 3 years ago when I walked in, I had that wild idea, and you looked at me going, I don't know. Is this something I could really do? And you probably doubted I could pull it off, and I'll be honest with you, in full disclosure, I doubted it as well. But we worked it together, and it worked beautifully. And now we've been partners for 3 years, and look at the growth we've had. Could you tell that story to other folks like you? I would love to share it. And then let them talk. They're your confidant. They're your influencer. What is more powerful? Think about this. Is you're walking in with this video, or the guy across the street walking in with a bar graph that's in full color, don't get me wrong, and we're number 1, 25 to 49, Monday, Tuesday, 6 a.m. to noon. What's going to carry more weight? A local business telling their success story or a story you helped create. So let's talk about this thought leader. Use testimonials, articles, podcasts, keynote public speaking to give you an unfair, dare I say it, an unreasonable advantage over your competition. I know it's hard work, but good for you. Content is your superpower. Content is your secret weapon. It's how you demonstrate your expertise, you build credibility, you provide real value to your prospects. You're not just selling. You're evaluating and educating and informing and building trust and engagement, and that's why we're here. This is how we establish that fiduciary responsibility. So how do we start this? Where do we begin? You begin at the beginning. Remember, frequency sells. If you stop and think about frequency, we talk to customers about this all the time, right? Be patient. Repetition is key. As a matter of fact, repetition is the key to marketing success. Do you mind if I say that again? Repetition is the key to marketing success. I'm going to say it one more time. Repetition is the key to marketing success. The first time I said that, you didn't hear me, because you're multitasking, right? Or maybe you're trying to clear off all those emails, right? Or the second time I said it, you probably thought, oh my God, he's repeating himself. How sad for him. It was just a matter of time. But the final one is, you know what? I guess he's trying to make a point. Ding, ding, ding. I am trying to make a point. See, when I started off in my career, those many years ago, in the last millennium, a successful advertising campaign was a frequency of 3. I'd tell them the story, tell them again, tell them one more time for good luck. We're good to go, right? But today, a frequency of 3 will not cut it. Today, we have more options, more opportunities to receive and deliver messages than ever in human history. You got to cut through the clutter. We have to be persistent in a noisy world. So today, we're looking at a frequency of 3 has been replaced by the rule of 7. 7 touches, 7 points of contact, 7 interactions. Getting in front of them and proving the point that I have outstanding customer service. Get in front of them and talk to them about, I'm a thought leader in the marketplace. I can help you grow. It's what I do every day. Develop that systematic approach. And it's going to make you P1, first preference. And that's the goal. So to begin at the beginning, I would start off with the same questions you were going to talk to your customer about, that ideal customer. Ask them the question of, what's your purpose? What are you trying to achieve? What's your mission? What are your values? What are you known for in the marketplace? Are you known at all? Or who is your customer? And more importantly, why are they a customer? Why do they choose you over everybody else out there? And who else fulfills that need? Who does a great job in your building, across the street, any marketing effort? Who does a great job? And of course, I'll throw Darren's in again. What should everyone know about you? But at this particular point in time, they don't. This is how we get it done. Now, here's the thing, that 7 that we're trying to achieve here, you can't achieve that 7th touch unless you initiate the very first one. And remember what we also tell our customers out there is don't be frustrated. Don't give up after the second Friday of the year. Because, when we build brands, about the time you're personally sick of hearing your message is about the time the rest of us are hearing it for the very first time. Let the message work. Let it get traction. So to recap, identify your ideal customer. Evaluate and educate and engage. Define the relationship. Deliver exceptional, over-the-top customer experiences. Make it a goal of yours to blow someone's day away in a positive manner. And establish yourself as a thought leader in the marketplace. That's all I'm asking. It's not that tough, right? And the cool thing is you've heard all day today, our customers want this from us. And someone's going to fulfill. You've got to reposition yourself in the minds as a fiduciary consultant. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take a lot of effort. But your competition is still out there standing in line, and those poor folks waiting for their fair share of the pie. And you could be over here baking your own. Let me just wrap this up. There are 3 different folks that are out there right now. There's a percentage of you that will say, this is good stuff, but they'll never get around to actually putting it into play. Life gets in the way. There's also a percentage of you, hopefully a small percentage, that said, you know what, I've heard all this before. I don't think you could really teach me much. And I'm afraid you're right. Which takes me to the final one. There's also a percentage of you out there that says, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to put these concepts into play. I want to change the trajectory of my career, not just my year. And folks, this is what excites me. I've been in this business for an awful long time, and this is why I still want to do it. I love what we heard from Jason earlier. I think this is the best time to be in this industry because we are evolving. We're reinventing ourselves, and you can either be part of it or get out of the way. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I thank you for your patience in the restart. Thank you, Brian, for clicking for me. Finally, knowledge without action is meaningless. So don't just sit there. Go out there and make something happen. You're the future of our industry. It's an industry I'm very proud of. You're in charge. Make it yours. Thank you, and good selling.
And the crowd goes crazy. Hey, good job.
Boom, yeah.
Good job.
A little rough there with the clicker, but
well,
we got through it.
The clicker can always cause problems. So, listen, I love this. I love how you kind of spun this off of Jason. What got you going on this? When you had this presentation kind of already built, but you did. But then you heard Jason, and it was a natural fit, right?
That was exactly right. Yeah, what I was working on is we did this for Michigan, not the same, but similar. Yeah. And we had 21 states we did this for. And what really kind of got me going was reading Will Guidara's book. Yeah. And I'm just ripping through this thing, thinking we can do this. There's not one thing here that we can't do to really make someone's day. And of course, being thought leaders, really taking charge in that respect, I got pumped up. And then once I heard Jason's stuff, Jason was actually going to go second. I said, let's flip this. Yeah. I want you to talk about fiduciary before me. And there we go.
Well, and Speed mentioned the book, Unreasonable Hospitality. You put me on the book.
Yep.
I loved it. I blew through it. When you had up a slide, I actually took a picture of it because I don't know that I'd paid specific attention to the type, but it says the remarkable power of giving people more than they expect.
Yeah.
Value is determined by what someone's willing to pay. But I think when we deliver more value to them than what they're having to pay, now we're really working on something.
I mean, stop and think about it. A restaurant is a pretty fleeting purchase, right? And generally speaking, the food's going to be good. If they got 1 or 2 stars, it's not a greasy spoon. And they were trying to reach out for upscale dining. They were doing this during the Great Recession. Yeah. Right, and they're no expense accounts, or at least highly curtailed. So they said, look, we know we've got a great product in terms of what comes out of the kitchen, but man, there's so much more we can do around that. Folks, as leaders in your organization, this isn't just for your account managers. This is for everybody in the building. If you've got somebody out there that says, I can help out with a piece of co-op, and your traffic manager says, I don't know if I want to do that. Have a good discussion. Have a discussion.
Okay, so Brandis, come up and join us. So let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. One thing we haven't really gotten to today, great job, by the way.
Great job.
That was a perfect kind of bow on our day. It's been a full day. Brandis is here. We're going to take a couple of questions. I'm going to go drag them out of behind our daylight donut box. We got a lot of questions. I mean, we have 1,000+ questions that people ask, and we're going to kick off tomorrow really addressing some questions on the sales side, on the customer experience side. But while I grab the questions, you got a session tomorrow. Can you share a little bit about what people can expect?
Okay, you know how in games they're always leveling up?
Yes.
You go to another level.
Everybody's leveling up.
Everyone wants to level up. So level up became a thing. And part of the thing about leveling up, well, I remember as a kid, I was a pack master. I get to the 7th key. If you didn't play Pac-Man, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Pac-Man.
I was a pack master. And you would level up screen after screen. And now you level up in games. And the thing that works with gamification and leveling up is you get hit with a surge of dopamine every time you level up.
Yeah.
That's why people pay money for real money for virtual games to buy the things they need to level up. And you're like, wait, that's not even a real thing. But I'm paying for the hit of dopamine. It's like, give me a shot. I need this. I need this. So I'm adding this to your client needs analysis to level it up. I want you to be hit with some dopamine on this. What I'm talking about tomorrow is more than you come in with your list of 20 questions and wah, 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 wah.
Is that actually on the slide?
Wah, wah. Yes, the Charlie Brown thing. And I love the fact that this morning, Corey Elliott and then later Jason Younger, both were hitting on points that I will be discussing tomorrow. And at first I was offended, of course, as I tend to be, because I was like, "Wah, don't steal my thunder."
We actually gave them your slides.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
of course you did. Of course you did. But also, really,
Not true. We just got them like 10 minutes ago.
Fair.
That is true. That is true. I had to tweak with them. But those are two of the most brilliant minds in our business, and the fact that we're all on the same page, we're saying the same thing, we're making the same points. You'll hear them tomorrow in my own inimitable way. Was great. And also, I need to add this. I have to step back for just a second and show, I don't know if I can, but these shoes
Okay. Oh, very
are
nice.
fire.
Look at those. Can you
Somebody
see?
get my boots.
Look at
Look at these boots. They're fire. And nobody got to see them today.
Yeah,
So.
no, those are. Those,
If you have nothing else good to say about the whole conference, Brandis's boots on Wednesday
made
were
for
fire.
walking.
Yes.
Let's do this. We're going to, Brian, at the very end, we're going to give tomorrow's schedule. But let me take a couple questions because we got so many and we didn't get to any of them. So let's kind of, if we can, just get a little thought going here. And I've just pulled a couple. Honestly, I just grabbed them out of the bucket, a handful. This one came from Texas. So Texas, thanks for the question. Okay, this is a good one.
Oh boy.
I took over a group and did not fully realize how bad the culture really was. What are a couple of areas I should focus to start turning things in a positive direction? Now, we've heard a lot of talk about culture today.
Yeah.
Certainly, Dr. Terry got into culture. Took over a business. Culture was worse than they realized.
Right.
Yep.
Where do they start?
Personally, I would talk to your folks. Let them tell you what is that most pressing need. What is that pain point that they really can't get around? And also make them a part of the solution. Okay, you're telling me what's wrong. How are we going to fix it?
I would have a talk with your folks.
Yep.
Because that's where your problem is.
Yeah.
It's in-house. It's coming from inside the house.
Always.
Yeah, I would ask them two questions. One, the famous Simon Sinek. Start with why. What's your why? Why are you even doing this? Why are you here? And see if you can get past because I don't know what else to do or I'm afraid of being fired. Is there something of substance that's directing them? And the second thing is I would have them pull you a list of each of their clients from the last 1 year and then ask them to give you a reason for each of those clients why they are not still on the air. Where did they go? Why did they leave? And if the answer is, I don't know, your next question is, why don't you know?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
that's part of your job.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I think culture, the other thing I would add to that culture is so important. And we heard Dr. Terry Daniels talk about in recruiting, your perceived culture is so important. My opinion, and this is solely mine, is that the two things that are killing culture, and this is especially post-COVID, is lack of communication and lack of connection. Okay, especially with Gen Z. Gen Z needs that connection. They need that positive reinforcement. So if I'm taking over a situation where the culture is bad, I'm going to double down on my communication, and I'm really going to work hard to connect with our people. And tomorrow in my session, shameless plug, we'll be talking about communication and connection, how we can do a better job with it. But when you talk culture, it starts with, in my opinion, with communication or lack thereof.
Well, if you start and you think about our worst enemy is our self-talk. And because so many of us are operating remotely now, we can't just walk over to the coffee machine and have someone say, hey, good job today. And so that's missing. So you're going home and saying, no, the tapes you're playing, I'm a miserable failure, and here's why I need to get out of here. So yeah, it makes it even more difficult. But as a leader, as a manager, you need in front of those folks and maybe just pick up a phone on a daily basis, say, hey, I'm just checking in. Are you okay? How's it going?
Okay, we're gonna tackle two more, and then we're gonna put a bow on this today. Okay, and they're both really good ones. This question comes from Wisconsin, so thank you for the question. How do we navigate through unrealistic budgets, which hurts morale and company culture? There's that word again. So the question: how do we navigate unrealistic expectations? And I'm just imagining that the question is coming from higher up are issuing budgets that maybe the people don't think are realistic. So you've got someone asking a question that's stuck in the middle between deliver the budgets to we can't deliver the budgets, and it is a tough one.
That's a tough
Any
one.
thoughts?
Next question.
Yeah.
You speak so I could steal your answer.
But you know what? I think there are managers across the country
Asking this question.
that this
Everybody
is
is.
really
Sure.
connecting with right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if we're missing goal and then we don't want to go back, so we increase our goal, all right, we just multiplied that. So at some particular point in time, we got to draw a line in the sand, and maybe we look at, okay, in terms of let's work on new revenue, let's work on direct revenue, let's work on, they need to be able to have some wins under their belt.
Yeah.
And I think new revenue is a great way to do it, or growing existing accounts, major account development.
Yeah, don't disagree. And I have found in many situations, yes, unrealistic can come from above because they're so far removed from the street, they forget what it's like. And we're so often, for decades, we keep trying to do more with fewer people, more with less. I mean, 2008 started cutting, we just keep cutting more with less. But also, when you look at the team that is holding to where they've been, they don't want to raise that bar. Because who wants to miss goal?
Right. True.
That's why we sandbag, right? I don't want you to raise the bar where I may do better than I did last year, but I'm still going to miss the bar and be punished. So look at that team. Can they be doing better than they have been doing? Can you get above the bar from where you have been? And that's already progress. And then have that talk, of course, with the high ups of like, look, we got to face a certain reality. I wouldn't tell them we can't do better than we're doing now, because we probably can.
I'm sure we could.
But we're going to have to find a happy medium where everybody makes progress, and you guys have to meet us halfway.
And that's it. I mean, you've got to figure out, all right, where can we increase?
Yeah.
You know, if our base is our base, then okay. That's the, as Jason said, that's the big rocks, right?
Right.
Treat them with love. Don't lose them, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
Get some minor growth out there. But where's the gravel? Where's the sand? You know, we've got to start building that out.
Bring in the new.
When we talk about numbers, I think it's always healthy to say any goal needs to be just beyond where we've ever been before.
Yeah.
And if numbers are just sent down the pike and they're not realistic, I think if I'm that person in the middle, I think I'm probably going to try to go above me and say, okay, we need to grow. We understand that. We don't know that we can grow at the rate that you expect, but we do expect to grow. And as long as we're delivering growth, is that going to be satisfactory? So growth is going just beyond where you've been before, and I always think that's a healthy place to be.
Well, and also to the higher ups, can you give us the tools we need to achieve the goals you are setting, or are we supposed to do with what we have now? Because if you aren't going to put some skin in the game other than, commands from on high, you got to give us the tools we need, or the resources we need, or the people we need. You're going to have to help us out.
Yep.
Okay, last question, and then we're gonna talk about tomorrow, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. And I love this one, and I'm not going to tell you what state it came from because I just decided I wasn't going to. This is from a salesperson.
There you go. This is from Kentucky.
I'm not going to tell you where this is from.
Yeah.
It's not Kentucky. But anyway, this is from a salesperson. My manager gets upset when we don't communicate with him, but he dismisses any idea we ever bring up. We don't feel heard, but we seem to be chastised when we don't get involved when he thinks we should. What should we say to him to help us? Now, this is a question I could have put in tomorrow because it's from a salesperson.
Yeah.
But this is guidance we're giving to a manager that I think, I don't know that this manager's listening, but let me say, my manager gets upset with me when we don't communicate with him, but he dismisses us anytime we bring an idea. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'm hearing. Got an idea, it's poo-pooed, it's dismissed, and then all of a sudden, everyone goes silent because they haven't been heard forever.
Right.
What's this person do to try to make the leader aware and try to help the situation? It's a great one, but it's not an easy one.
Well, and I would say, go tell your manager this is happening, and the manager would say, no, it's not, poo-poo, that's not how it's, first of all, is your manager aware this is happening? Sometimes you have to have the hard conversation. It's like,
exactly
the
right.
reason we're not is because we perceive, you know, and listen, it's been said, there's no such thing as a bad idea or a dumb idea, and when you're brainstorming, yes, there is. I've heard them. I've occasionally put them forward.
I've actually been offered a few.
You can be nicer about my bad ideas.
Yeah, no, I've taken some actions in my life that clearly, in hindsight, was a bad idea. But no, there are bad ideas. But tell your manager, look, we're new at this. You want us to communicate more? We're going to pitch you a lot of bad ideas. What I'm going to ask of you is try to find something good in each idea that you can grab onto and reflect back to us. Tell us that part was good. The rest of it's like crap. Oh, sorry, poo-poo. But
You can say crap.
there are children watching. Yeah. There are cats watching.
You used the poo-poo word?
I did. That's Drek. That's Drek. But can you encourage the manager to find something in it that was worthwhile to reflect back to us and encourage us. And as you teach us to find those little nuggets, we'll start coming with better ideas. And if you're receptive to it, it will encourage us to come forward. But there's got to be that, I see what you see.
You know, one thing I've seen done, and I've been a part of it, actually, I was asked to be a facilitator of a meeting where they were doing brainstorming, and it was kind of that way. It was like, they were getting nowhere from within, so they brought in some more on from the outside. And I facilitated for the day. I looked at it from a completely different viewpoint because I'm not in their business. I'm not in their, I have no skin in the game. And it worked beautifully. Everybody participated. The boss that was known as the tough one to get along with actually participated, not as the boss.
Right.
And, basically, if you go in there and just say, hey, check your title at the door, and I'll take care of it for this next hour.
All I would add is everyone wants to be heard. And you know what? Speed, you and I have had this conversation. For every good idea, we have 100 bad ones. Mm-hmm. So as a leader, sometimes you got to sit through what you think may be bad ideas, but at least let them be heard.
Yeah.
I think people desire to be heard. And that's part of that communication and that connection that we were just discussing.
And I got to say, as a leader, being an owner or being an employee or an employer, we're passionate about what we do. That's how we got to where we are. And there are times I hear myself doing it and I'm kicking myself for doing it. We have to remind ourselves as well, shut up, pontificate less, listen more.